Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. We're live back on the set here at Radio Row. We are in Miami Beach. Everybody's got hurt feelings here today. Charlie Batch is here. Last time we got together, he was all, Lamar's taking you to the Super Bowl. Y'all better get ready to get out of Miami. You're going to win a Super Bowl. Jinx, you, Bettis, cowers in the Hall of Fame.
You're so combative. I was happy to talk to Charlie Batch.
Take it out on somebody.
I was happy because I knew you all would be bragging this week. This would be unbelievable. We've been doing this since 2012.
Yeah.
Right around that time we were sitting in New Orleans and you were bragging about how you all were going to do this and Joe Flacco was going to win.
And we did it.
And you did it.
Did it. Right there. I see the program right above.
I was hoping we were going to have that conversation again, that you all were in the Super Bowl again.
I know you were pulling for us.
I was.
Secretly,
I really
you
was.
kind of
I
like
really
us.
was.
I mean, Alabama and Auburn, they hate each other, but they really love each other. Kind of, sort of. You know what I mean? Kind of, sort of, a little bit. Let's discuss this because I had you on, and you were bullish, as everyone was bullish. And, how did we get here and the disappointment of how it just feels like it slips away, especially when you're in the third and fourth quarter and the clock's winding down and the poop's hitting the fan and the worst nightmare and every turnover, every mistake, every 4th and 1, everything you tried didn't work. It does happen quickly when you get pushed out the door.
It does, and it almost reminded me because it put me in my player mode when we were sitting in 2004, and we're playing in that AFC Championship game. We end up losing to New England, and you're sitting back at home and you're just like, wow.
What happened?
The fans are silent. You hear a pin drop in the stadium. You're just like, this is crazy. So when I saw that, I'm just like, this is unbelievable. So it took me back quite a few years, 15 years ago. So it's something that when I look back and I'm just like, what happened in that game? I don't know if they knew what happened. I think they were hit so hard and so quickly, nobody knew how to react to that game.
Well, Mike Tyson says that, right? Everybody's got to play until they get the first punch,
That's
right?
it. That is it. And I'm baffled because that was my AFC Super Bowl team, and I had them winning. When we talked about it, if you go back to Week 17 when we were on, I said, Baltimore going to win a Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, and rebounding from this psychologically when you're a 22-year-old kid. Look, Lamar lost ugly last year. I won't say they lost because of Lamar in the Chargers game, but his performance was particular. I didn't feel like he played that poorly, and we've had Rob Woodson Saturday. We had lots of conversations about it. But the improvement of what happens when you lose. I mean, the kid over here on the wall, he had his feelings hurt last year too. Right. Garoppolo had his feelings hurt when he got drafted into New England, and they wouldn't give him the ball, and then they threw him out and said, well, go try to do it out in San Francisco. Right. And now he's on the wall. There is something about when you get punched in the mouth long term. Lamar specifically made larger strides from year 1 to year 2, larger than maybe anybody thought he could make.
Right, and I think when you look back and you see John Harbaugh and all the accolades that he had this season, how young he is, that was a valid point. But nobody wants to hear that when you lose, right?
Oh, right.
But last year, to John's credit, everybody was clamoring for Joe Flacco to come into that playoff game, and it didn't happen. And he said, this is my guy. Lamar rewarded him with the MVP-type season. But when you come up short, it's okay, what's next? Now, can Lamar build off of what he's done? Can it make him hungrier this offseason and say, you want to know what? Everything that I'm trying to accomplish is he's going to put all of that into working on his craft to do that, because it's a humbling feeling. When you get that close to the Super Bowl, there's no guarantee you're going to be there next year. 2 years, whatever that looks like, you know what his goal is because he speaks openly about winning a Super Bowl.
Look, man, you were number 1 quarterback and number 2 and number 3. You were thrown out. You were brought in. You carried a clipboard. You started. You did all of that. There's a different perspective. I think you get a little gray than when you're 22 as far as what your window is and what next year looks like and what the disappointment of that, because for a lot of guys, there is no. I mean, you look at Cam Newton and where we are with that, how quickly that window can close. Right. RG3, I mean, could probably give him a great primer on that. But there is a part of this that the offseason begins now. And for Lamar, he's going to be running around here doing an MVP trophy. He's also going to see that his hometown, this was him and Hollywood Brown, this was maybe the only chance they're going to have to win it at home. Right. And I saw a bus running around and what it meant to him to do it in Detroit. That offseason for you when you were a young guy, you get some money, you get some time, whatever. The thing I love about Lamar is it feels like he didn't have a whole lot of offseason last year because he made that move. I think it is easier as a player to say, man, I'm banged up, I'm beaten up. When does that offseason really ever stop or start when you're 22 and you're chasing this kid on the wall? Right. And if you're Lamar, you come down here, I'm pissed being here. I can't imagine when he's here thinking, you know what I thought when I landed? We saw all these Chiefs fans. I think they're drinking our beer. They're staying in our hotel rooms. They're having our fun. They took it away from us. I can imagine Lamar's going to feel that way as he walks around here and they're handing him MVP trophies. He doesn't want the MVP trophy any more than Mahomes wanted it last year.
Right, and I think when you look back and as he's walking this room, he's going to get a lot of pats on the back, great season, and he's going to say, no, I didn't. I came up short. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you all from the media because I'm not playing in this game today or this weekend. So I think when you look to see where he's at, it's just a matter of where he is mindset-wise. It did a little different for me because Lamar's expectations when he came to Baltimore, that was a ready-made team to compete possibly for a Super Bowl. When I was in Detroit, it was kind of rebuild mode,
still there.
Change your coach. Yes, thank you. So that's my point. So when you look back, and we were out of it midway point, and by December, everybody figuring out what they're doing in the offseason. So it was a different conversation when you're there. Then all of a sudden that changed when I went to Pittsburgh because of the expectations. They're not happy about winning the division, not happy about being in the AFC Championship. Super Bowl what matters. So that's a similarity to Baltimore. So when he comes down, when Lamar comes down here, he's going to say, this is what I want to be a part of. I experienced this. I see what Media Row is like, but I want to be on the panel. I want to be on that podium on Monday night when the media is there. That's what matters because everybody's paying attention to it. I think he's there because he hasn't received a big contract yet. He still wants to prove that he's worthy of that. I understand he was a first-round pick, but when you see what Mahomes is about to get next year, that's his motivation.
Yeah,
this offseason, when you're talking about close to $40 million a year, that's what Lamar wants. So now when you get the money, the expectations are going to rise even more.
As they did for Joe Flacco.
Absolutely.
And it got heavy.
Absolutely. So those are the things that he is going to have to manage. But when you're that young in your career and you know when you're looking around the body of the team, you're like, man, these guys are older. This guy's may not be here next year. And you start to see the dynamics change. You want to win it for them more than you do yourself because you're not guaranteed to be there. So when you see those tears and those cries and that hurtfulness that you see within that players, man, it's because you see what everybody else. And this brings me to my point. When we lost Super Bowl 45, the only thing that I can sit back and say, like, I can remember, man, we didn't win this game. And I'm looking at Flozell Adams, as great as a career he had with the Cowboys. We brought him in there, and he was so excited to be part of that Super Bowl. When we came up short, you see it, and all he could do was thank everybody. It crushed him. But as a man, he walked around and thanked everybody. He said, all I wanted was an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl. I did. We came up short. He knew his career was over. Those are the type of memories that you have. And that happened 10 years ago, and I still remember that story vividly as if, like, man, that was yesterday. These are where these players are at. It's a young team. They have a nucleus, but at some point, everybody on the roster is going to want paid. How do you manage that? How do you figure it out? Baltimore has to figure it out now because you know in 2 years you're going to have to pay Lamar Jackson, and it's going to change the dynamics of the team. So they have a chance to put it together next year. I think selfishly they don't do it only because they have to face Pittsburgh, but I think they are there.
Charlie, I want to go back to, you mentioned the 2004 team. I mean, 15-1, had that amazing run, all those wins. You lose in the AFC Championship. I think for the Ravens, I think one of the storylines this year, not just Lamar, but the entire team, when you go 14-2, you win 12 in a row, and you bow out where you do, I think there's a danger, and I want to get your opinion on this as far as that 05 team, which won the Super Bowl, even though weren't 15-1, you were a wild card on the road. But I think there has to be a mental grind to think we've got a lot of work to do. There is a heck of a grind over these next 12 months just to maybe be in position to do that again. So some thoughts about that following year after you go 15-1 and you don't even get to the Super Bowl.
I think this is going in that 2004 season or after the 2004 Super Bowl, we were feeling good. 15-1, we just squeaked by the Jets in the divisional round. We get to the AFC, we lose that game, and then all of a sudden we get to our team meeting, you see the emotions, and nobody's sure whether or not Jerome Bettis is coming back.
Right.
That probably was the most tearful meeting I've ever been a part of. And that was right after, and Hines Ward walks out, and he's crying in the media, talking about that particular point. And the conversation happened between Jerome and Ben Roethlisberger. Ben saying, Jerome, I need you. Jerome's like, I need time to think about it. Once a decision was made for him to come back, we thought, okay, this is where it's going to be. Ben gets hurt in the middle of the year. I fill in for 2 of the 3 games, and we're 7-5. And we play Cincinnati home at the beginning of December, and we lose that game for the division. Cincinnati wins the division that year. And now we're sitting there at 7-5. And I just remember Bill Cowher saying, guys, it doesn't get any easier than this. And we're like, what the hell are you talking about? He said, you just have to win them all.
Yeah.
The picture's clear.
On the table, right.
4 to get in, 4 to win the Super Bowl. And at that point, we were sitting there, and that's that Chicago game where Jerome runs over Brian Urlacher.
In the snow?
In the snow.
That picture's in the press box when we walk out of him running the snow.
And that was the start of it.
Yeah.
And we ended up going on a run. We played Minnesota. We went up to Cleveland, beat them 40-0, and then came back and played a tough Detroit team. And that forced us, number one, to play in Week 17, and it just went on one heck of a run. But nobody thought that at 7-5. Ben Roethlisberger now was going into his second year. You didn't know what you had. But the way that his confidence was building up into that point, instead of turning around, handing the football off to Jerome Bettis, Willie Parker, it was, Ben, we need you now to air it out at the beginning of the game. We built the lead, bleeded the clock out, running the football. And that was the time that with the 6th seed, nobody ever done it before. We beat the Indianapolis team, number 1 seed. We beat Denver as the number 2 seed, beat Seattle as that number 1 seed in the Super Bowl. Now that's in addition to Cincinnati. It's the 3rd seed. So that was the toughest road that we could have did. But because of that, it brought us together, but we also knew we wanted to try to finalize and put Jerome out there in the Super Bowl, and we were able to do that, capitalizing on the Super Bowl 40 victory.
Worst segment of the week right there. I mean, I've been trying to block that ad for 14 years, and you just recap the Super Bowl that I.
You know what though? I mean, we're talking about the Ravens not being here, and it's easy to talk 2011, 2012, Ray Lewis, last ride, Joe Flacco, best run of his career, but I think the 04 and then 05 Steelers, I think it's a decent comparison from the standpoint of you don't necessarily have to go 14-2 again. Yeah, you'd love to do that.
Right.
You would have loved to have gone 15-1 that year, but it does show that, okay, you might hit that road bump and things the following year might be a lot more difficult for you. Your quarterback gets hurt, whatever it might be, but you might be more battle-tested if you can get back to that spot to make a run.
My point of that story, and you hit on it, it's not being 14-2.
Right.
You would love to go 14-2 if that's the case.
It's not going to happen often.
12-4 is just as fine. 11-5 is just as fine if you can get one of those top 2 seeds.
What matters the games in January?
It matters.
You got to play 2 or 3 games, and you got to win them all.
Only thing at this point it proves is the fact that because you have the AFC Championship game, it's not, or the divisional game at home, it doesn't guarantee a win. So at some point you have to bring it. You have to figure out what that looks like. The experience levels that they're bringing back, they're all going to burn inside. They're all going to come back. And I think it's going to be better. It's going to be a very competitive team. I think you're going to have a different Lamar Jackson, a very confident Hollywood Brown. Now that's a dangerous combination. You get Mark Ingram back. I mean, you have all of the pieces that are there. You know defensively they're going to be fine. They're going to be one of the top 3 teams that you're going to look at and say, Baltimore's one of them. I can't say that for Pittsburgh.
Charlie Batch is here.
We didn't even talk about the Steelers.
We didn't even talk about
we're like a bunch of old ladies getting together. We sit here and go all night. Right. You want to promote the trust and tell me about what's going on? I mean, you were on the phone over there. I know you've got your foundation. You're always doing some good stuff. What are you here promoting this week, Charlie?
So the combination of 2 things. Best of the Batch Foundation, we're an educational foundation that we created 20 years ago. And we're now celebrating 20 years, and we service over 3,800 kids annually. So that's something that's exciting about what we're doing back in Pittsburgh. But also the trust.
Your sister be proud.
Yes, she would.
Yes, she would.
And for now, with the trust, we're promoting. It's powered by the NFLPA, and it's a transitional program that helps players transition away from the game. Doesn't matter if it's education, career, lifestyle, whatever that may look. If you're just looking for a job, whatever that looks like, the NFLPA and the trust will help you do that. So if there's any former players that are out there looking for that, or if you know a former player that may need a little help trying to navigate what that next career looks like for him, tell him to go to the playerstrust.com, and he'll be able to get all of that information, and he'll be able to go and activate his benefit, and that's something that we need a lot of players to do.
I'll tell him to call Charlie Batch or Stover or Kyle Richardson, the guys that lead up the Baltimore group of people. I think it's great you guys are all sticking together as alums.
Absolutely.
A lot of post-career issues, as we all know about.
Absolutely.
Right?
And you see a lot of different former players that are in this building, whether they're just dealing with Media Row as a guest, or now they're on this side of it as it relates to the media. And I'm on this side as well. But it's always important to continue to share that messaging, because as everybody's busy, you tend to forget about certain things that are out there. So after this week, when everybody gets a chance to breathe a little bit next week, you could turn around and, we could make sure that we are helping everybody.
Well, look, man, I'll get up there with Yins and that. We'll go down to Dawnsies, and we'll go to the Strip and have some Permanis and with
my
Yins
favorite Steeler right here.
So good. No, I appreciate it.
The only Steeler I like. No,
no, man. He told Woodson
we
he
got
was
Rod
his
Woodson.
favorite.
but Rod was a Raven, though. I don't think of Rod as a Steeler, even though he really was a Steeler at the end.
It's all about that moment. That moment, Rod was the top Steeler that he enjoyed. Now this is my moment. Now I don't know how many more Steelers you have. Let's just end it this way and say I'm one of your favorites.
Yeah, I don't want any more.
Bettis done blown me off, so he used to be my favorite. I'm done with him. I'm off the bus is where I am. Charlie Batch here. All of it brought to you by our friends at Liberty Pure. And get some fresh water at acleanwater.com and Royal Farms, real fresh, real fast. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.